Iran's calculated tit-for-tat response slams pressure right back onto the US and its vulnerable allies across the region. Mujtaba masterfully plays the trump card, delivering the West its biggest reality check amid escalating naval standoff. Iran's detention of ally nation crews from seized ships turns unbearable heat directly onto Trump's crumbling blockade. Iran surgically targets shipping linked to its adversaries while deliberately sparing all international crews unharmed. Fresh details have emerged about the crews aboard commercial vessels seized by Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps in the Strait of Hormuz, shedding light on the human dimension of the maritime standoff. Two commercial ships, the MSC Francesca and the Epaminondas, were intercepted by Iranian forces on April 22 as they transited or approached the strait, marking a significant escalation in the use of maritime interdiction. Sources told Reuters that both vessels were rerouted by Iran and steered toward the Iranian port of Bandar Abbas, where they remain under the control of Iranian authorities. According to officials, the Francesca had a small crew of 4 sailors from Montenegro, including the ship's captain, along with 2 Croatian nationals, reflecting the multinational makeup of Iran-linked crews. The Epaminondas, sailing under a Liberian flag, carried a crew of 21, most of whom are reported to be Ukrainian and Filipino sailors, adding to the diplomatic complexity of the seizure. Accounts from relatives of several crew members describe a tense but controlled situation on board, with the sailors aware they are being detained yet not subjected to physical violence. Around 20 heavily armed Iranian personnel reportedly boarded the vessels, restricting crew movement, confining them to certain areas, and maintaining a tight watch without causing physical harm, according to Reuters. Officials from Montenegro and Croatia have confirmed to Reuters that their nationals are still alive and being held on the Iranian ships, offering at least preliminary reassurance about their safety. Both countries have also stressed that diplomatic efforts are underway through consular channels and third-party mediators to secure the release of their citizens from Iranian forces. Maritime authorities say the 2 ships are currently anchored close to the Iranian coastline, within Iran's territorial waters, making any unilateral rescue operation highly risky. Notably, both vessels had their automatic tracking transponders switched off shortly after the seizure, effectively removing them from open-source ship tracking platforms and obscuring their precise location. Meanwhile, Iran has doubled down on its justification for the operation, calling the detention of the ships a justified response to what it describes as U.S. piracy at sea and the seizure of Iranian-flagged vessels. The seizure appears to be a tit-for-tat move after the U.S. Navy intercepted and boarded the Iranian-flagged cargo vessel Tuskar in the Gulf of Oman, underscoring a growing pattern of retaliatory captures. This tit-for-tat pattern has turned commercial shipping into a key pressure point in the wider standoff, with neutral vessels increasingly caught in the crossfire. Despite repeated assurances from Iranian officials that the crews are being treated well, the incident has heightened fears among shipping companies and insurers. On April 22, Iran released a video showing its naval forces seizing commercial vessels that it described as linked to Israel, increasing pressure in the Strait of Hormuz. The ships were accused of violating maritime regulations that Iran has imposed around the strait, according to a report by Iran International. The footage was described as the first video of this kind of enforcement operation since the war began on February 28, giving viewers a rare glimpse of Iran's new blockade-style posture. Iran's semi-official Tasnim news agency reported that the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, or IRGC, carried out the operation, underscoring its role in controlling the waterway. Amid the ongoing standoff with the United States, Iran claimed to have seized 2 ships and taken them to its shores, portraying the move as a test of its authority in the region. This marks the first confirmed instance of Iran formally detaining foreign-linked vessels amid its own blockade of the Strait of Hormuz, crossing a threshold in the naval confrontation. The IRGC also issued a strong warning alongside the operation, emphasizing that it will treat any attempt to interfere with its control of the strait as a serious provocation. The IRGC warned that any disruption to order and security in the Strait of Hormuz would cross a red line, indicating that further incidents could trigger a more escalatory response. The U.S. military's claim that it would not allow Iranian ships to transit through the Hormuz Strait has been sharply contradicted, as new reports suggest that multiple Iranian-linked vessels have in fact passed through these strategic waters. Maritime intelligence agency Lloyd's List has asserted that dozens of Iranian ships have successfully crossed the Hormuz Strait, undermining Washington's narrative of a tight and impenetrable blockade. Data compiled by Lloyd's List, and reported by the outlet Iran International on April 20 ahead of the truce's expiry, paints a very different picture from US military briefings and official statements. At least 26 ships connected to Iran's so-called Shadow Fleet are reported to have bypassed the US blockade on Tehran's ports, slipping through the cracks of enforcement and continuing their journeys. The report cited vessel tracking data that showed continued tanker movements tied to Iranian trade, indicating that energy shipments and commercial routes have remained active despite public claims of severe restrictions. Several oil and gas tankers carrying Iranian energy exports are said to have departed the Gulf despite the curbs, suggesting that Iran's export lifelines are far from completely severed. Iran's Shadow Fleet is described as a network of aging or lightly regulated ships specifically used to evade international sanctions and keep vital oil and gas revenues flowing. These ships typically operate with obscured ownership structures and masked tracking data to move oil and gas under the radar, making it difficult for authorities to monitor, intercept, or halt their activities.
$25 करोड़ गरीब गरीबी को परास्त करके बाहर निकले।
For the good of our nation, let's work together and let's truly make America great again.
The fastest news breaks.
Requested PM saying that look, you will have to speak to Putin and to Zelensky.
The biggest news makers.
The relationship with India is probably the most important bilateral relationship the U.S. will have for the rest of this century.
The capital delivered quite an election result today.
Expert analysis.
The million-dollar question today is how to stop this dance of death.
Ground reports.
I'm standing at the crossroad of the Kumbh Mela. Behind me are more than 100 entry ghats.
Long-form interviews.
Exclusionary politics is reflected in Manipur case as well. You don't bother because this is a small state.
Deep dive into burning issues.
It's often said DRC could be the richest country in the whole world. It's because of what sits underneath.
Why exactly did the US topple the Sheikh Hasina government?
HD videos. We don't just break news, we break it down.
$25 करोड़ गरीब गरीबी को परास्त करके बाहर निकले।
For the good of our nation, let's work together and let's truly make America great again.
The fastest news breaks.
Requested PM saying that look, you will have to speak to Putin and to Zelensky.
The biggest news makers.
The relationship with India is probably the most important bilateral relationship the U.S. will have for the rest of this century.
The capital delivered quite an election result today.
Expert analysis.
The million-dollar question today is how to stop this dance of death.
Ground reports.
I'm standing at the crossroad of the Kumbh Mela. Behind me are more than 100 entry ghats.
Long-form interviews.
Exclusionary politics is reflected in Manipur case as well. You don't bother because this is a small state.
Deep dive into burning issues.
It's often said DRC could be the richest country in the whole world. It's because of what sits underneath.
Why exactly did the US topple the Sheikh Hasina government?
HD videos. We don't just break news, we break it down.